All right, guys, hopefully you're doing well. Let's do a couple of the problems from today's assignment. We're going to solve for the angle. Okay, so to solve for an angle, if you're given two sides of a right triangle, just recall you want to think of SOHCAHTOA. Okay. And to solve for an angle, you always want to do the inverse buttons in your calculator. So these guys. So be ready to use these guys. Okay, so that's a quick reminder. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is make sure we know our reference angle, and then we're going to label our sides accordingly. So across from the 90 is always our hypotenuse. Across from our reference angle is always our opposite. And then the last guy would be our adjacent. And now I'm going to circle two sides that actually have measures because those are the ones I want to use. So I want opposite and adjacent. So based on that, opposite and adjacent, that's going to be opposite and adjacent is tangent, TOA, opposite and adjacent. So we're going to use tangent. And we're going to use tangent of our missing angle, which we will call x. And this is going to equal opposite, which is 10, over adjacent, which is 36. Okay, and now we want to solve for our missing angle. So the first thing we want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to get rid of tangent because I want to get x by itself. The only thing that can get rid of tangent is inverse tangent, which you see here. Okay, and this is a button in your calculator. So mathematically, we're going to do this. Inverse tangent on one side, and what you do to one side, you do to the other. These will cancel each other out, which means we are left with x. Okay. X equals, and we have to compute this, the inverse tangent of 10 over 36. Okay, how do I do that? Well, now we need our calculator. So we first want to compute the fraction and turn it into decimal. 10 divided by 36. If you throw that in your calculator, we get 10 divided by 36, 0.2777. So x is equal to inverse tangent of 0.2777. And now we're going to go ahead and push the tangent button of 0.277. So look for this in your calculator. Again, you might have to push the shift or second button for you to use it. And if you compute it correctly, you get 15 degrees. And I'm rounding here. Okay, cool. So now let's go ahead and do the next one. Again, we are solving for a missing angle, so think inverse functions again, inverse tangent, inverse sine, inverse cosine. So I'm going to go ahead and label across from my 90 is my hypotenuse. Across from my reference or chosen angle is my opposite. And this last guy is my adjacent. Okay, so this problem's slightly different just because we actually know all three sides. So in this case, we could choose any set of sides to use. Okay, you could use opposite with adjacent, just like we did before. You could use opposite with hypotenuse, hypotenuse with adjacent, whichever ones. So in this case, we get to choose. I'm going to use opposite with hypotenuse. Okay, so if you look, what formula is that? Opposite and hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So I'm going to write sine of my missing angle, which we call x, is going to equal opposite 30 over hypotenuse 78. Okay, and now we can solve for x. I need to get rid of sine, So I'm going to do inverse sine to both sides. So sine -1, what you do to one side, do to the other. These will cancel out and you're left with x equal sine -1 of 30/78. And now we can go ahead and compute. So first thing is we want to do 30/78. So 30 divided by 78 in your calculator is going to give you 0.3846. 0.3846. And now we were looking for the inverse sine button. So push the inverse sine button and you get 22 degrees. Okay? Again, using any combinations, you should have still got the same answer. It's just your trig function would have changed. Okay? For example, if you used opposite with adjacent, it would have been tangent here. If you use adjacent and hypotenuse, okay, you would use cosine here. So again, it all would give you the same answer. All right, last one. Let's do this a little quicker. Here's my chosen. This is my hypotenuse. Across from my chosen is my opposite. And this is my adjacent. Let's set this up. I'm going to do, let's go adjacent and opposite, just because they're the smaller numbers. So that's going to be adjacent and opposite, or opposite and adjacent is tangent. So we're going to have tangent of x, because we're solving for the angle, is equal to opposite over adjacent. To solve for x, we get rid of tangent by doing inverse to both sides. Okay, these will cancel out, and we're left with x equals tangent -1 of 20/21. Get our trusty calculator out, and what's 20 divided by 21? 0.9523. So x is equal to tangent -1 of 0.9523. And then we do the inverse tangent of that, and we get x is equal to 43 degrees. All right, hopefully this helps. Have a good one.